So we need to understand these two levels. And what creates a lot of confusion in the Buddhist teachings, when people listen to teachings and they don't know from which level one is looking. Yeah? Because if it's about emptiness, then very often people go, yeah, well, then everything is empty, so what's the point? Why should I generate compassion? Why should I do anything? It's just a dream, so there's no point of doing anything. Then you forget about relative existence, that we're still in the dream, guys. So we still need to do something to get out of this dream. And we need to work with the dream at the moment. At the moment, we need to work with the dream. It would be nice to wake up, but if we don't work with the dream, we're not going to wake up. Yeah? So that's relative level. And then when it comes down to, like, how do things really exist, then it comes to the ultimate level. And why is it called ultimate level? Because when you meditate on absence of inherent existence, all that appears is no apple, nothing. You know. When we do meditation on emptiness, meaning looking for something and we can't find anything, and then you put your awareness on that, but this. It's not this, not this, not this, not this. Can I look somewhere else? No. It's a nothingness. And then there, ultimate truth appears the way that it exists, meaning as just space. Nothing appearing. But in relative truth, things do not exist the way that they appear. In your dream, things do not exist the way that they appear. And in the dream, this is why they take dreams as an example, because it's so helpful. When we are in a dream and we wake up, then we start to understand, all this story was just created by my mind. Then we see the power of the mind to create a reality that we totally fall into. Yeah? So, when we talk in Buddhism about the basis, the path, and the result, the basis is that these two truths that we need to understand. And that's what we study. Yeah? So here we're still with the relative truth. Yeah? Then the path is method and wisdom. The wisdom has to do with emptiness. How do things appear? The method is all that what I said before. Compassion, love, karma, impermanence, patience in rebirth, death, all these kinds of things. That's the method. Sometimes it's called compassion, but it's not quite right. You sometimes call compassion and wisdom, the two wings that will take you to the result of having the body and the mind of a Buddha. Yeah? Okay. So when we fold our hands, then it's like this, like the thumbs are inside. So the outside shows me, hey, I have to understand relative truth. Relative truth exists. It's not true, but it exists. A dream is not true, but it exists. Do you see what I'm saying? This is what we have to understand. Don't go too far and say, oh, it doesn't, it's not true, therefore it doesn't exist. I said, that's not true. It exists, but it's not true. Your fears and your anger and all this, it exists very much, but it's not true. Why? Because it's not based on truth. It is based on a false truth that there is an I, a me, that I need to protect. That's it. That is what is not true. The stories that our negative emotions are telling us, they are not true. The story that our love and compassion is telling us, that one is true. Love says everybody wants to be happy. Compassion says nobody wants to suffer. That is true, relatively. Because then again, you have people who inflict pain on themselves in order to be happy. So they also want to be the masochist. So they're so distorted. Because why? Psychologically, I can see why people do this. Because when you are full of pain, it makes you be very present. I can call myself a masochist. I did a lot of skiing and a lot of climbing. I tell you, with the skiing, I don't know how many of you ski, worn ski boots? Itchy? Are they comfortable? I used to have, like here, the skin sometimes gone because they're so high. And they try to make them soft, but still they need to be stiff in order for you to have enough strength to push the skis around. But it didn't matter. I still went the next day. Because why? Because it seems the pleasure was because I did it voluntarily also. Yeah? So you see, the pain can be used to be mindful, for example. And if you see the pain as being, well, it comes with skiing. You know, if I have boots that are so soft, then I can't ski properly. So what is more important? So you wear the suffering. Or with the climbing, I mean, it's so dangerous. Yeah, well, I didn't climb without ropes like they do now. But we still had ropes when I went climbing. But still, you can still fall. And you have open hands and open knees. And you bang somewhere, you know, because it's like against the wall. And it's like, and we called this fun. And once I fell really, really, really badly. I thought this is it, because it was not climbing a rock, it was hiking on a mountain in Bali on a volcano, and I was alone, and I fell, and I thought this is it, I'm going to die, because nobody will find me here. But then I got caught in a thorn bush, and I had it totally open because I was hanging in that thorn bush. I was so proud. When I came down, I was so proud about my injuries. I was not a Buddhist then. And I wrote to everybody what had happened, and, you know, wow, this and that. I think also I was so happy to be still alive. It's only when we are facing death, then we become aware how precious life is. For about 2 weeks, I had, you know, nothing disturbed me. Nothing. I was so happy. So like this. So, oh gosh, how do we get to that? With the hand folding. So we need to, so having the empty space inside, I need to understand, I have to understand also the ultimate level of reality, which is emptiness. Yeah. How do I do that? By practicing compassion, or method, which is the outside, the form of the hand, and wisdom, which is the emptiness of the hand. What will I attain? The mind of a Buddha, which is also emptiness, but also the qualities of a Buddha, universal love, universal compassion, knowing how to help others, and all this. And if you are so attached to truth also, there's a very nice quote by Nagarjuna who says, that which leads to happiness and away from suffering is truth. And not just for me, happiness and away from suffering, but for everybody. Yeah. So if we would act out of love and compassion, the love who wants somebody to be happy, the compassion who wants somebody to be free from suffering, like you know these mind states if you have children, because that's what you do. And it's these mind states that make you think, what shall I do now? And you become very skillful, hopefully. What do you think? Huh? You really, it's very profound actually.
I just saw the last and look the guilt of the innocent.
It's very profound. Like nobody is not guilty. You can claim not to be guilty and say, you know, there's nothing I can do with light your cigarette and put on your coat. It's really a great quote. Yeah. It throws us the responsibility right there. Yeah. Because, you know, you can't say, there's nothing I can do. We can always work on our mind not to become angry. We can always work on our mind to have an open heart and compassion, and maybe be able to stop the person who then is creating. This is from the Holocaust, okay? This goes... It's from somebody who was in the Holocaust, and she said it probably goes to the Germans, who said, well, we didn't know. So therefore we're innocent. It works better in German because Schuld und Unschuldig works better than guilty and innocent. It kind of has a deeper meaning. meaning, but anyway. So yeah, so it's good to read the quote actually, because all of us are responsible to live in this world now that is dying, full of plastic, this and that. To live in this world who is very violent, because it's also our karma to live in this world. So it's a karmic result from our previous actions. So we can't say, in Buddhism you can't say, my hands are clean. Never. Yeah. So we all are a burden for this planet. And we're not aware, like Einstein says, we are not aware that we are just a part of it. We see ourselves as individuals. There's this very nice quote by Einstein who says, a human being is part of this whole that we call the universe. But through some optical mental delusion, he or she sees itself as an individual. This is this me and them. Because I have an I that I need to protect, me first. Yeah? And then he says, then with this kind of view, we start to be attached to the people who are nice to us, and we start to be aggressive to the people who are not nice to us, and then we create this imbalance. So he says, the job or the purpose of a spiritual practice is to break out of this prison of feeling as an individual and to become one with the whole of all beings and nature. And then he continues to say, which then, until here it's very Buddhist, and then he continues to say, that makes it a bit non-Buddhist, he says, it's not possible to do this. If he would have said in one lifetime, then I would say, it's not possible to do this. But he says, but just to try to do this, just training yourself to do this, will create a lot of mental stability for yourself. To become a part of something. And with becoming a part of something, we have this ability to kind of, to think me and them, or us and them. We do it all the time. That's what we have to break. Us at the moment is all beings on this planet. More far I cannot see. Maybe there is also other beings on the other planets, I don't know. But what I have to think now is like, us, me, a part of everybody, and everybody wants to be happy, not, me the Swiss and them the Israelis. Us, human beings. And when we think us, we react totally differently than when we think us and them. Because them, if them not do what I want them to do, then them becomes the enemy. And of course, at an enemy, we get angry. So, yesterday we talked about Bodhisattva principle. Is that kind of clear? A Bodhisattva is somebody who is his purpose. I'm saying his, so I don't have to say his or hers, okay? I'm sorry, it's like, it just makes it easier, but it's not gender limited. Actually, it's quite rare here that we have so many men compared to so few women. Usually it's about 10% men and 90% ladies. But, so here is quite something. So we're a very special group, by the way. So percent-wise, so many men. So Bodhisattva is somebody that the purpose of his life, he trains, he practices, he trains to use every situation to liberate himself from suffering and causes of suffering in order to be able to get other people out of that state of misconceptions or suffering, what we call samsara. That is a bodhisattva. So sometimes you hear sayings like, a bodhisattva has no enemies. And of course then we think, oh great, I want to become this bodhisattva and nobody harms me. Isn't it? Because for us, an enemy is somebody that harms me. No? That's what we call an enemy. So many of the Tibetans, Tibet was invaded by the Chinese army in 1950. Many of them died. Out of the 6 million, about 1 million died because they were killed by the Chinese army. Many of them tried to flee over the Himalayas with, weeks, with very little food, with very not good gear, and all this. So there are also many died. They came to India, a climate which they're absolutely not used to. Many of them died because of the climate. They were being helped by Indians, who was also a poor country, with like food who was not, was not adequate for what they should eat. It was moldy or rotten or whatever, so many died like this. So they didn't have, so the Chinese army was not their enemies. Even those people say we don't have enemies. They were harmed. But the people who had generated bodhicitta, there were many also who died who didn't have bodhicitta and got angry at the Chinese. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that Tibetans had bodhicitta in their genes. They had it because they had time to practice this in a very good environment where they were totally secluded from the world, and all they did was doing these practices. Yeah? So that's why they have developed it with these methods. So, meaning a bodhisattva doesn't have any enemies, meaning a bodhisattva doesn't have anger towards people. Because in the mind of the attitude of a spiritual practitioner, an enemy is somebody that I want to be harmed because they harm me or because they're not the way I want them to be or whatever. That is an enemy. In an ordinary being's mind, an enemy is somebody that harms me. Then I'm getting angry at him, and I want, if he gets harmed, well, better, I'm happy, or whatever, or at least not too unhappy. Yeah, if somebody gets harmed, like small harm that you dislike because they are having parties every night, your neighbors, until 3 o'clock in the morning, and then, somebody bumps into their car, you're not terribly unhappy. If it's your car, or if you just bought a car for your son or your daughter for their 21st birthday or something, and then somebody bumps into it, you're very unhappy. It's a bump, it's a car, it's a bump, it's the same thing. But, the difference is in the mind, whose car it is. Yeah. And when one says the Bodhisattva only has friends, that doesn't mean, we call friends people who like me, then they are my friends, something. Sometimes people present me as this is Losang, she's my friend, or this is my friend Losang, and then I go like, oh, I didn't know. So people decide, usually we decide who is my friend without asking them, At least when we were kids, we had this, in school we had this book. You also had this in Israel? No, so we had this book that would pass around in the class in the first grade, that you would write a poem, and yes, you are my friend, and this and that. Then if you would have a conflict, you would rip out the page. Yeah. So at least we knew, we had agreements there. But like now, as grown-ups, we don't agree, We don't ask, is it okay that I call you my friend? Is it okay that I see you as my friend? It would be good to know sometimes, because then I also know I have to be careful how I behave. Somebody at one point got so angry at me because I did something, and then she said, but you are my friend! And I said, well, I didn't say it, but I thought it. I said, well, sorry, I didn't know. So she was expecting me to be there for her, but I didn't have time. And I didn't think it was so important because she had somebody else. But she wanted me to do it. And she got so hurt and so upset because you are my friend. Well, I don't know. I didn't know. I didn't say it, but I thought, okay. Better start to be a bodhisattva and be friends of everybody. So then they can call me. This is my friend. Okay, so that's the gesture. Just that reminds you, with the prostration, it reminds you of the basis, of the method, or the path, of the structure of the path, and what the result will be. Yeah. Then you throw yourself on the floor, or you go down, and you put 5 places on the ground. Your 2 hands, the knees, and the front. And that means we have a human being has 5 aggregates. We won't be able to go into that. And these taking on these 5 contaminated aggregate parts, 5 parts: form, feeling, discrimination, composition factors, and consciousness. If you don't understand what it means, it doesn't matter. If you will continue, you will learn that, because this is understanding who am I. I am made up of a form, a body, and a mind. This is what I am. And the mind is divided into these 4 different things. Sensations, a mind, that, the distinction that we make, all the rest of the mental states, and consciousness. This is who I am. And then these 5 aggregates are not pure because we see them as mine. When they talk about pure view and impure view, it's not the thing outside, it's how we see them. I see the body as mine. I see the sensations that are in the body as mine. I see the mind as mine. The mental states, I see them as mine. I see the consciousness as mine. Well, whose? That's what makes them impure, because we add an I, a me, in there, who is the owner of these 5 aggregates. That is why they're impure. And this is why we're being reborn again and again and again and again, because we don't see them as just body, sensations, discrimination, composition factors, and consciousness. We see them as being owned by somebody. And then our existence is life after life after life after life, with this view of my body and my mind taking on these, what is called 5 contaminated aggregates. And these 5 points represent these 5 aggregates. So you want to put them on the ground, you want to leave them behind, not taking them on again, and then take on pure aggregates, because the Buddha also has a body, a Buddha also has sensations, the Buddha also has discrimination, composition of factors, and the consciousness. But then they are pure, because the wrong view that there's an I inside that owns all these things is gone. So that's why we practice, because we want to understand that there is no I that owns these 5 aggregates. So these are the 5 points. And then you should, if you're fit, which I can't do anymore, you should push yourself up really fast and quickly, and that means coming out of samsara very quickly. And as you push yourself up, you drag your hands a little bit on the ground, and you think, I'm taking everybody else out of samsara with me. So that is one prostration. So it doesn't have much to do with the Buddha. It's for us to remind ourselves why we practice. So I thought I'd just explain that. So also it explains a lot about the past, like about Buddhist practice, and why we prostrate. And we definitely also prostrate with an appreciation for our own purity, that we have Buddha nature. I mean, again, Buddha nature sounds, it's only for the Buddhists. So we should call it differently. I don't know how to call it. Yeah. Awakened nature or something like that, we have the potential, we have the capacity to wake up. We have the capacity to become a Buddha. The word Buddha is not, Buddha nature is not exclusive to only Buddhists who practice Buddhism. Also, actually, as a real Buddhist, you cannot be born as a Buddhist. Although they are. But you become a Buddhist when you start to accept what is called the 4 seals. When you start to accept everything that is seen with wrong views. Now, first one is, everything that comes together will fall apart. All compounded phenomena are impermanent. So you have to, this is not our view. Our view is, when I like it, it should stay together. And then I suffer when it falls apart. So the Buddha taught a lot about, when it comes together, it will fall apart. Also our universe, it came together at one point. When now we are accelerating the whole thing, it will also fall. Even without human beings, it will fall apart. Because otherwise it couldn't come together. Yeah? And impermanence is built into the things. We don't have to, we cannot take it out. You know? Like the impermanence of this watch is oneness with the watch, but the impermanence is not the watch, and the watch is not impermanence. But it comes together. Same as this watch is also empty of inherent existence. But the emptiness is not the watch, and the watch is not the emptiness. Yet it is together. I cannot separate these two. Okay? So they're the same, they're one entity, but they're not identical. So you learn all these things. So first it's just intellectual, and then when we have a grasp intellectually, slowly we start to integrate it kind of in our life. So the first thing is all compounded things are impermanent, so they will fall apart at one point. Doesn't mean you should neglect the whole thing, but then also, you know, if something breaks, we go like, yeah. No suffering. A lot of suffering comes because we cling to things that are by nature impermanent as they should last. Most of the suffering comes from that. Like clinging to rainbows. I can only be happy when there's rainbows. We all understand the rainbow comes about when there's the causes and conditions. Otherwise there is no rainbow. Yeah. So we're not clinging to them because there we understand. Okay, then the next one is all impure phenomena are in the nature of suffering, like are not satisfying. Everything seen with me here, the rest outside, separate from my mind. Dualistic view. Everything that we see with a dualistic view is in the nature of suffering or dissatisfaction. Then the third one, there is no separate self. There is no separate I, there is no separate watch in the parts here. Yeah? There is no separate, there is no essence here. There is no entity that I can say, this is the watch, or me. You know, if I point here, what is it? My collarbone, which is covered by flesh and skin. Is that me? Then I said, no, me is here. But here again, it's like bones. Skin and flesh. And if I go further down, a lot of fat. Yeah, is my me here? Well, maybe hidden by the fat. Who knows? So like that. So everything that is seen like this is in the nature of suffering. There is no separate self. And then the fourth of these seals is only nirvana is peace. Meaning only a mind who has gotten rid of these wrong views, only that will be peace. Yeah? When you accept this as true, and you start to act as if it's true, yeah, we accept it here, but we act as if it's not true, then you are a Buddhist. Like, technically speaking. Of course, people are born as Buddhists, but they don't really study, they don't really practice, they're just born as Buddhists. Being a Buddhist doesn't necessarily make you a good person. You can be a very good Buddhist without being a Buddhist by accepting these four facts. I hear very often, people are very shocked when Buddhists do bad things. Isn't it? But they're Buddhists. Yeah, well, Christians also talk about love, compassion, forgiving. They also have, they came to this country, and how many people did they kill, the Crusaders? Because they're not following their God. My God, yes, but not their son of God or whatever. I don't think that's what Jesus wanted. Yeah, human beings can distort a lot of things. Yeah. So like this. So then you become a Buddhist, and that will be your practice. To recognize your negative emotions and then to work with them in a skillful way. And then these two goals, either for your benefit, you want to get out, not being reborn again, or for the in order to get everybody out. So what we practice here is the tradition of what is called Mahayana, that you want your full enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. Okay. So we come to the text. Is that clear? If you have questions, as I said, please write them down and then put them there, and then I'll try to answer. And if you get confused, also don't worry. You're just getting little pieces of puzzles here, and then at one point maybe the puzzle will fit, and at another point maybe it will never